This is from Rays of the One Light by Swami Kriyananda, week 27, Abiding in God. Truth is one and eternal. Realize with it, oneness with it, and your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. Yogananda often emphasized, more often to his disciples than to the general public, but also to everyone generally, for it was a universal teaching, the importance of attunement. For divine understanding cannot be created, it must be perceived. To the disciples, Yogananda spoke of the importance of attunement with the Guru. To others, he urged the importance, at least, of attuning oneself to higher consciousness. Can an eagle rise without support from the sustaining air? Jesus Christ said in the Gospel of St. John, chapter 15, I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me ye can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and is withered. And men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If ye abide in me, and my words abide in you, you shall ask what ye will, and it shall be done unto you. Herein is my Father glorified, that ye bear much fruit. So shall ye be my disciples. How can we abide in him, Jesus says, if my words abide in you? By words he meant not only his spoken words, but his vibrations, his consciousness, of which the words are only an expression. We must abide by the teachings, but we must also absorb those teachings into ourselves, that they become our own experience. For disciples of this path, the more in their hearts they live consciously in the presence of the Masters, the more they will find the divine presence living within them. And for all truth seekers, whether disciples or not, the more they live sustained inwardly by the awareness of God's presence, the higher they will find themselves soaring in wisdom and joy. For the Bhagavad Gita says in the 10th chapter, I am the source of everything. From me all creation emerges. Blessed with this realization, the wise, awestrucken, adore me. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
Good morning, great souls. I'd like to acknowledge at least our country's birthday today and the other great souls whose birthday is on July 4th. We have a little picture of Sister Gyanamata on the altar, who was one of Master Yogananda's foremost disciples. And also from our community, Lauren Russell's birthday is on July 4th, so we have many birthdays to celebrate. Abiding in God. I'm going to take a quote from a movie here. What does this mean? What is the most important thing in your life? Is this. You know what it is? I'm quoting City Slickers here. Billy Crystal was riding with Jack Palance. They're out on the cattle drive. Jack Palance goes, you know what the secret of life is? It's this. Billy Crystal goes, your finger? No, this. Once you figure this out, everything else makes sense. And so that's what we're doing today. We're figuring out what is the most important thing in life. And Joy Teaching David were here last week, and they were talking about religion. And religion, they talked a lot about religion in the Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga is kind of the dark age of religion. and the difference between religion today and the religion, at the time of Jesus. And I was thinking about it after they left, and I thought, one of the big differences in religion, especially this path, is the sense of sin and what sin is. Because I don't even consider, to me, sin isn't really, it's not a bad thing. It's something we do out of ignorance because on some level inside ourselves, we think it's going to bring us joy. And the way to get rid of that sin is to bring the light in. The more we can bring the light into our consciousness, every single level, every single aspect of our lives, fill it with light, the more we begin to abide in God. It used to be, 1,000 years ago even, I won't even go back 1,000 years, I'll go back 100 years, even 50 years, people thought sin was another aspect of their nature, and they kept it apart from God. And today, I think it's just the opposite. I love the story that Yogananda told about the alcoholic who did Kriya Yoga. Kriya beads in one hand, fifth in the other hand. Eventually, he put down the fifth because he didn't need it anymore. He let the light in. I have a very good friend of mine who has been addicted to drugs for well over 40 years. And he, a great disciple, he had a vision of mastery at a very young age. But I was talking to him not too long ago, and he said, well, it's not really my problem. And I said, what? And he said, it's God's problem. It's Master's problem. I gave it to him a long time ago. He knows what I want. He knows what I need. He says, I will do the best I can, but it's his problem now. And he has since been able to kick that habit that he's had for 40 years. But I think that was part of it, is letting the light in on every single aspect of your life. Yogananda had a disciple who had a habit of smoking and was really troubled by it. And Yogananda told him, let God smoke through you. That's the ticket. You got to give up your ownership of it. And once you do that, once you let the light in, you can begin to deal with it and begin to deal with it on a level that you can get rid of and improve your life. I mean, that's what this is all about. It's about bringing the light into your life. And of course, the easiest way we do it is through Kriya, but Kriya meditation, Kriya Yoga, the technique that most of us have here, is a way of bringing that light into us. But one of the aspects of it is that we have to tune into is to realize that God is inside, joy is inside, light is inside, and we need to tune into that as deeply as we possibly can. Kriya Yoga is a great technique, but I was thinking about it the other day, and when I practice my meditation techniques and when I practice meditation, I'll do my Kriyas, I'll do my techniques, and I'll sit as still as I can, and my brain is just rushing. But through the techniques, I'm able to put it up on a shelf and just focus at the point between the eyebrows. And it's like taking your hand away from that basketball. The thoughts just slowly begin to subside, and you begin to feel some contentment, some peace. And if you sit long enough, you really begin to feel joy in your life. It just you don't have to search for it. It just begins to percolate up because it's who you are. It's your own true nature. And once you have that, that is truly what abiding in God is. Because then you can go out and serve in your daily life. And if somebody comes up and insults you, you're not going to jump on them and punch their lights out or pull up a gun and shoot them. You'll probably just look at them and go, yeah, good luck with that, and move on, And that's truly the secret of life, of abiding in God. One of the things in meditation, for me, I realize, and I see them a lot, because we have our higher Kriya techniques coming on. something that's very important that I learned a long time ago. You don't need Kriya to find God. It's a technique for settling down. But a lot of people who even do Kriya now, they're restless. I remember Kriyananda saying a very important thing. He said, do your techniques. He said, and then sit still. He said, don't move a muscle. And my brother who is on this path and lives in Italy now, was talking to him. And Kriyananda says, if you're 10 minutes into your meditation, you start moving around, you can ruin your meditation. He said, don't move a muscle. Because what you're doing with your Kriya technique is pulling the energy off the surface of the body and into the spine. And once you get it there, you don't want it coming back by moving around. You want to keep it there. Because that's when your true nature begins to manifest itself. You begin to get calm and peaceful and full of joy. And once you have that, what else is there? You know, you basically conquered the world. But, you know, sometimes that joy doesn't come. Sometimes you work at it and work at it and work at it. But there's always that sense of contentment in there. There's that sense, Yogananda said, it's like digging a hole. You're digging, and finally you're done. And meditation is a lot like that too. You meditate, and suddenly you realize that your whole life has changed. You know, it has that kind of aspect on it. And, you know, the path of Kriya Yoga is basically just tuning into what you do. Master said there was three paths to cosmic consciousness. One of them was meditation, one of them was self-discipline, and the other one was social. In other words, through other people, through karma yogi, which is a pretty long path. But when you combine them all together, which is basically what Kriya Yoga does, you've got the airplane route to God. You've got a pretty significant advantage. And that's not true with religion today at all. I still don't believe I heard this, and an evangelical minister the other day was talking about religion in the United States and how he respects all religions. And then he says, of course, if a Christian goes to one of these other religions, he's going to hell, and it's my job to tell him what's going on. And I thought, are you kidding me? Did you really just say that? And there's like 30 million evangelicals in the United States today. And I just thought, that's what comes from living your religion out here. From living it, no realization whatsoever about joy or about God or about devotion inside. It's all out here. It's all this stuff out here. I told you the story. Not all evangelicals are like that. I told you the story about living in Ananda and having the evangelical. We were working in a cabinet shop, and the driver for the wood truck was an evangelical, and he jumps out of the car one day and he goes, "Who's this picture of this woman I see all over this place?" And I go, "Oh, that's Yogananda. He's a guru." "He's your guru?" And he goes, "What is this place?" And I go, "It's a spiritual village." And he goes, "You're kidding. It's a spiritual village?" So he brings his family up over the weekend to have a picnic up on the hill because he thought, this is just the coolest thing in the world. And yet he's an evangelical. And I said, "Doesn't it bother you?" And he said, "No, not at all." He says, "The voice of God is sweet on anybody's lips." You know? So there is that balance. But, you know, you don't find that very much today. You know, it's you live your religion. This is the way you have to live it. And, you know, if you don't live it my way, you're going to hell, you know. And, you know, what is hell? For me, hell is being pushed in a direction that you don't want to go out of habit, you know. Whether it's my friend with his drugs. I mean, that's hell, you know. You can't, you know, God isn't going to punish you. God is the one who created it. He's the one that threw the blanket of Maya over us and said, you know, figure it out, you know, pretty much. So, you know, I look at it as, you know, it is his problem. But we have to apply ourselves. The spiritual path is not an easy path. In fact, it is the hardest one because you're taking control of yourself. You know, you're not blaming it on anybody else. You're taking control of yourself and you're changing yourself. And that's huge. I mean, the very few people in this world that have that kind of control. Um, the other thing we need to do is to learn to let go. I've heard a couple of good stories on this. One that Sue told me the other day about two monks walking along a path. They came up to a river, and there was a prostitute on the side of the river, and she needed to cross the river. And she asked the monks, and one of the young monks said, "No, certainly not. I'm not going to carry you across." The older monk says, "Yeah, get on my back, I'll carry you across." So they go across the river, and they get on the other side, and they drop the woman off on the other side and start walking down. And the one monk is just berating the other monk. "How could you do that? You're taking a vow of celibacy. You need to stay away from those things that you know, are going to tempt you," and on and on and on and on. Finally, the older monk turns and looks at him and says, I set the woman down by the river. You're still carrying her." You know? And that's what we do. And I saw another classic example of it yesterday, of course, on Facebook. But this person was giving a talk, and they had a glass of water, and they were standing there with the glass of water, and you thought, oh, it's going to be a half full, half empty type thing. And they said, "I've got this glass of water here, and I'm carrying this glass of water with me. And you know, I can carry it for 5 minutes. I can carry it for half an hour. What happens if I carry it for a couple hours? Half a day, all day long, carrying this glass around with me all the time. What's it going to do? After a while, you carry it around for a day or two, and you're going to start having muscle spasm. You're going to start having all kinds of problems. That's what we do with attitudes. That's what we do with hurts and pains. We carry them around with them until they start to fester, you know, until they start to do us damage. And we've got to learn to let go. And the easiest way to do that is, like I said, you've got to go inside and find that joy inside and live a centered life. Otherwise, you're going to be constantly reacting to all the things around you that, you know, all the hurts these people have done to you. And, you know, the world is full of that. And that's just, like I said last time I gave Sunday service, Yogananda said, the world is nothing but a huge mental institution. We have to realize that it's not here. We're not going to get a lot of what we want out of life unless we're centered in ourselves, unless we learn to serve other people. I had an interesting experience, I'll tell you. This is, you know how you take a book sometimes, you're looking for guidance. I do it with Yogananda's books all the time. I think, is there something in here that I need to know? And I'll open the book to any page and see what it says. Well, I did that the other day, thinking about this Sunday service, and I was reading Man's Eternal Quest, which I brought up before. I just love the book. I thought, is there anything in here that I need to tell people on Sunday service? And I held it up to my spiritual eye and opened it up. And it was so powerful, I thought, yeah, I think there is something I need to tell you. So this is what I opened the book up to. And it's Yogananda, and the talk that he gave is on the desire that satisfies all desires. And this is what I opened up to. And he says, to be able to demonstrate health or wealth or power or friends with God's help is fine. But if you can coax God himself to respond to your prayers, you are a man of destiny. So don't rest until you demonstrate God in your life. He will give you everything you ever wished for, and he will test you. The tests in the spiritual life are greater than in any other. But you who pass his tests shall say, Lord, my greatest prayer has been answered. What else could my heart want or need but you? And that, to me, that sums up the spiritual path. That is the one thing. Once we get that down, once we have that, that is truly abiding in God. And we don't really need anything else. Our lives are pretty much covered. And I have this reading from Whispers from Eternity. For those that don't know, it's a book on poems and prayers by Paramahansa Yogananda. And this is, O divine heart, H-A-R-T, which I had to look up because I didn't know what H-A-R-T was. It's a deer. O divine heart, I will hunt for thee in the forest of my soul. O divine heart, I ran after thee, equipped with the spears of selfish desire. Thou didst fly before me. I raced after thee, shouting prayers loudly, but my voice drove from me by the gusts of my restlessness. The noise I made only frightened thee away. Stealthily then I crept up to thee and cast the dart of my concentration. Alas, my hand unsteadily shook, and thou didst bound away. As thou didst so, however, thy hoofs echoed. Without devotion, thou art a poor, poor marksman. With firm devotion then, holding fast the dart of meditation, I crept forward. Thy divine hoofbeats came stealing back, but I heard thee whisper, I am beyond thy mental dart, far beyond. At last, despairingly, I entered the cave of celestial love, and there at last, lo, thou, the divine heart, came willingly into my heart.